You know, folks, they say that if you work a job long enough, you stop seeing the individual pieces and you start seeing the whole machine, the rhythm of it, the way it breathes. And for 30 years, I was a part of that machine, a cog in the wheel of airport security at North Point International. Just a guy named Mac with bad knees, a pension on the horizon, and a partner who had more hair and sharper teeth than I did, my German shepherd, Buster. And I gotta tell you, when you walk a beat with a dog like Buster, you learn pretty quick that the world isn't made of what you can see. It's made of what you can smell, what you can sense in the twitch of a muscle or the spike of a heartbeat. And usually, that instinct just leads you to a forgotten bag of weed, in a college kid's guitar case, or maybe a nervous businessman trying to smuggle a Cuban cigar through customs. Routine stuff. The kind of boredom that settles into your bones like the damp cold of a Detroit winter. But then there are days, rare days, days that you pray never happen, where the routine snaps, the rhythm breaks, and you find yourself standing on the edge of a cliff looking down into something that doesn't belong in a civilized world. And that's exactly what happened on a Tuesday in November. A day that started with lukewarm coffee and ended with me questioning the very nature of what we call safety. We were patrolling Terminal B, the international wing, and it was crowded. One of those pre-holiday crushes where the air is thick with the smell of floor wax, stale pretzels, and the collective stress of 5,000 people trying to get somewhere else. And Buster was doing his thing, trotting beside me on the slack lead, his nails clicking a steady beat on the terrazzo floor, ears swiveling like radar dishes. Just relaxed, you know, or as relaxed as a missile with fur can be. But then, right around gate B12, the rhythm changed. It wasn't a bark. It wasn't a growl. It was a stillness, a sudden, absolute freeze that nearly yanked my arm out of the socket, because when an 80-pound Malinois decides to stop, you stop. And I looked down at him, expecting to see him eyeing a discarded sandwich or maybe greeting another handler. But he wasn't looking at food. He was locked on, his body rigid, the hackles on his shoulders rising up like a fin, and a low, vibrating hum started in his chest. A sound I hadn't heard since our time in the K-9 unit overseas. A sound that didn't mean drugs and didn't mean explosives. It meant predator. It meant threat. And it sent a cold spike of adrenaline straight into my gut. Easy, buddy. What is it? I whispered, trying to keep my voice calm, trying not to spook the tourists who were already giving us a wide berth because, let's be honest, a police dog in drive mode is a scary thing to see. But Buster ignored me. He ignored the sit command. He ignored the tug on the collar. His entire world had narrowed down to a single point in the crowd. A young woman pushing a high-end gray stroller, looking like she was about 5 seconds away from a total breakdown. She was pale, sweating despite the AC, her eyes darting around like a trapped bird. And she was pushing that stroller fast, too fast, weaving through the passengers with a desperation that screamed guilt. But here's the thing, folks. Panic in an airport is normal. People are late. They're scared of flying. They're fighting with their spouses. So usually I wouldn't think twice. But Buster, he wasn't looking at her. He was looking at the stroller, at the dark mesh canopy that was pulled all the way down. And before I could even assess the situation, he moved. It wasn't a trot anymore. It was a hunt. He dragged me across the concourse, cutting through a line of passengers waiting for coffee, knocking over a wet floor sign, and I'm yelling, "Police! Make a hole! Move!" Trying to keep control of a situation that was spiraling faster than I could think. And we caught up to her near the entrance to the shuttle train. I reached out, grabbing the handle of the stroller to stop her. "Ma'am, stop. Police K-9. I need you to stop right now." And she screamed, a sound so raw and terrified it froze the blood in my veins. She spun around, putting her body between me and the baby carriage, sobbing, "No, no. Leave us alone. He's sleeping. Please don't wake him. You can't wake him." And her hands were shaking so bad she could barely hold onto the bar. And that's when Buster lost it. He let out a bark that sounded like a cannon shot in the enclosed space, lunging at the wheels, snapping his jaws at the undercarriage, and the crowd. Well, they did what crowds do in the 21st century. They didn't run, they pulled out their phones. 100 black mirrors held up to record the police brutality, to record the crazy cop and his vicious dog attacking a mother and child. Control your animal. Some guy in a suit yelled, stepping forward like he was going to be a hero. And I shouted back, "Back up. Everyone back the hell up." Because I saw something in Buster's eyes that terrified me. He wasn't just alerting. He was terrified. He was reacting to something that triggered his deepest, most primal survival instincts, and he was trying to kill it. And I'm wrestling with the leash, my boots sliding on the floor, trying to pull him off. But he's strong, folks. He's made of muscle and drive, and in one fluid motion, he slipped his collar, something he had never ever done in 6 years of service, and he launched himself through the air, a blur of tan and black, landing with all 4 paws directly onto the stroller, crushing the canopy down, and the woman shrieked, collapsing to her knees, "My baby! You killed my baby!" And the silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. The kind of silence that happens right before a riot breaks out. My heart was hammering so hard I thought I was having a coronary. I dove onto the dog, tackling him, pinning him to the ground, expecting to hear the cry of an injured infant, expecting to see blood, knowing that my career, my life, was over, that I was going to be the monster on the evening news. But Buster wasn't biting the baby. He was digging, frantically pawing at the side of the cushion, whining, desperate. And I looked. I looked past his frantic paws, and I saw the baby, a little boy, maybe 6 months old, sound asleep, untouched, miraculously calm amidst the chaos. But right next to him, wedged between his tiny body and the plush side of the stroller, was a silver tube, sleek, metallic, about the size of a thermos, but looking like something designed by NASA. And it was humming, a faint, high-pitched whine that I could feel in my teeth. And on the side of it, a small digital display was blinking a rapid, angry red pattern. "Bomb!" I yelled, the word ripping out of my throat. "Everyone get down!" Bomb. And chaos erupted. Real chaos this time. Screams, stampedes, people abandoning luggage and scrambling over seats. The TSA agents drawing weapons but looking confused, and I grabbed the woman by the arm, dragging her and the stroller behind a concrete pillar, shoving Buster down beside me. "What is that?" I roared at her. "What is in the stroller?" And she was hyperventilating, rocking back and forth, clutching her chest. "I don't know. I don't know." The man in the elevator. He touched it. He said it was a gift. He said it was precious. And I'm thinking, great. A proxy bomber. A mule who doesn't even know she's carrying the payload. And I'm watching that tube, counting the seconds, waiting for the flash, waiting for the heat that would vaporize us all. But the explosion didn't come. Instead, there was a hiss, a sound like a hydraulic seal breaking. Ksh! And the end of the silver tube popped open, and a cold, blue vapor spilled out, curling over the baby's blanket like dry ice, smelling faintly of ozone, and something else, something copper-like, like old blood, and Buster went crazy again, barking at the vapor, snapping at the air, and I peeked over the rim of the stroller, expecting to see wires, expecting to see C4. But the tube was empty, hollow. Whatever had been inside was gone, vanished, and I looked at the bottom of the stroller, at the mesh basket underneath where moms keep diaper bags, and I saw a hole, a ragged, melted hole in the fabric, leading straight to the floor, and on the terrazzo tiles there were scratches, deep, gouged claw marks leading away toward the ventilation return vent on the wall about 10 feet away. "It's not a bomb," I whispered, the realization hitting me colder than the vapor. "It's a cage." And just then, the bomb squad commander, a guy named Henderson who I've known for years, comes running up in his heavy blast suit, sweating, breathless. "Mac, what's the situation? We're getting weird readings on the scanners. Radiation is negative, but we're picking up a massive biological signature." And I looked at him, and I pointed to the vent. Whatever it was, Henderson. It just crawled into the air system, and my dog says it's hungry, and Henderson's face went pale. The kind of pale you only see on guys who know exactly how bad things can get. He keyed his radio, shut it down, shut down the HVAC, seal. "The terminal, we have a biological containment breach. I repeat, containment breach." We evacuated the immediate area, creating a perimeter, and I took the mother, Sarah was her name, into a secure room nearby because I needed answers before the feds arrived, and turned this into a black site operation. She was a mess, shaking, holding her baby so tight I thought she'd squeeze the air out of him. So I sat down, lowered my voice, tried to be the human being instead of the cop. "Sarah, look at me. Nobody thinks you did this on purpose, but you have to tell me exactly what happened. The man in the elevator, what did he look like?" And she took a breath, wiping mascara from her cheeks. "He was professional," she whispered. "He wore a suit, but he had gloves on, leather gloves. And he didn't look at me. He looked at the stroller. He admired Leo. He leaned in close. I thought he was just being a creepy guy, you know. But he must have. He must have slid it in when I was looking at the floor numbers." She started crying again. He used us, didn't he? He used my baby as a shield. Yeah, I said, feeling a dark anger bubbling up in my chest. He did, because that's the oldest trick in the book. Security doesn't screen babies the same way. We're trained to be gentle, to be respectful, and these people, whoever they were, they weaponized our compassion. They used a mother's love as a smuggling route, and that made it personal. That made me want to catch this guy more than I wanted my pension. But first, we had the creature, whatever it was, loose in the vents of one of the busiest airports in the country. We moved back out to the concourse. The terminal was eerie now, empty of passengers. Just abandoned bags and silent screens. The only sound was the hum of the emergency lights and the low growl of Buster. He was tracking, nose to the floor, following an invisible trail of those scratches and small droplets of a glowing, bluish fluid that looked like antifreeze but smelled like rot. Henderson was there with his team, holding sensors that were clicking erratically. Miller, he said, these readings don't make sense. The DNA sequence is shifting. It's rewriting itself every few seconds. This isn't an animal. It's a weapon, a bioengineered organism designed to adapt, to hunt. And I looked at him, designed to hunt what? And he just looked at the ceiling, everything. We followed the trail to the maintenance access door that led to the sub-basement. The guts of the airport, the miles of conveyor belts and steam pipes that run beneath the shiny floors. Buster was pulling hard now. His drive was off the charts. He wasn't scared anymore. He was in work mode. He knew he had a job to do. And as we pushed open that heavy steel door, the air hit us hot, oily, and thick, and somewhere in the darkness of those tunnels, we heard a sound, a skittering, clicking, sound like 1,000 fingernails tapping on metal, followed by a screech that sounded like a hawk screaming through a synthesizer. It wasn't natural. It wasn't right. And I unholstered my weapon, checking the safety. Okay, Buster, I whispered. Seek. And we stepped into the dark. The sub-basement was a labyrinth of shadows and noise. A place where the air pressure hammered against your eardrums, and the steam pipes hissed like angry snakes. It was the kind of place where you could hide a war, and nobody upstairs would hear a thing. And we were walking right into the middle of it. Buster was the point man, his nose dissecting the stale air, leading us deeper into the maze of baggage conveyors that twisted and turned like a mechanical roller coaster. Henderson and 2 of his tactical guys were behind me, their flashlights cutting beams through the dust. But honestly, they were blind. In a place like this, eyes are useless. You need instinct, and Buster was pure instinct. He stopped abruptly at a junction where the belts split, one going toward the international loading bay, the other toward the incinerator room. He whined, a high-pitched sound of frustration, and pawed at a grate on the floor. The blue liquid was pooled there, glowing faintly in the dark, sizzling slightly against the concrete. It's bleeding, I said quietly, crouching down to touch the slime but stopping myself. It cut itself getting out of the vents. Henderson scanned it, his face grim. It's metabolizing the injury, he muttered. Looking at his device, Miller, look at this. The cells are regenerating almost instantly. If this thing gets out, if it breeds, we're not talking about an infestation. We're talking about an ecosystem collapse. We have to kill it, burn it, whatever it takes. But before we could move, the radio on my shoulder crackled. Not the police frequency, but a jagged, static-filled intrusion that overrode our secure channel. Officer Miller, a voice said, calm, synthetic, almost bored. Step away from the asset. The retrieval team is on site. Your interference is no longer required. And I froze. Who is this? I barked into the mic, but the only answer was the sound of a heavy door slamming shut behind us. The echo rolling down the tunnel like thunder. We're trapped, Henderson said, spinning around. They locked the access doors. Then I saw them, emerging from the shadows on the catwalk above us. 3 figures dressed in matte black tactical gear. No insignias, faces covered by sleek, featureless ballistic masks. They moved with a fluidity that was terrifying, silent, efficient. They weren't cops. They weren't military. They were corporate. The kind of cleaners sent in when a billion-dollar experiment goes wrong. And they weren't holding handcuffs. They were holding rifles that looked like they belonged in a video game, pulsating with that same blue energy I'd seen on the tube. Drop the weapons, I yelled, leveling my Glock. This is the Chicago police. But the leader just tilted his head. Incorrect, he said, his voice amplified by the mask. This is property management. He raised his rifle, but he didn't aim at me. He aimed at the shadows near the incinerator, at a pile of discarded pallets, and he fired. A burst of compressed energy that blew the wood apart. And that's when the creature revealed itself. It exploded from the debris, a nightmare of biology and mechanics. About the size of a mountain lion, but moving like a spider. Its skin was translucent, shifting colors to match the concrete. Reveals pulsing organs underneath. It had too many limbs, jagged and serrated, and a tail that whipped around like a scorpion's stinger. It shrieked, that same digital scream, and leaped, clearing 20 feet in a single bound, latching onto the overhead pipes upside down, hissing at the soldiers, engage. The leader shouted, and the tunnel erupted into a light show. Blue bolts of energy flying, steam pipes bursting, sparks showering down like fireworks. I grabbed Henderson and dove behind a metal control box. We're caught in the crossfire. I yelled, we gotta get out of here. But Buster, my crazy, brave, stupid dog, he didn't hide. He saw a threat. He saw the thing that had threatened the baby, and he launched himself. Buster, no. I screamed, lunging for his leash. But I missed. He scrambled up a stack of crates, vaulting onto the moving baggage belt, charging straight toward the creature that was now cornered by the mercenaries. The creature swiped at the soldiers, slicing through their armor like paper. Fast to track. But it didn't expect the dog. Buster hit it from the side, a fur-covered missile, his jaws locking onto one of its lower limbs. Crunching down with 800 pounds of pressure, the creature screeched, thrashing, trying to shake him off. But a Malinois doesn't let go. They don't know how to let go. The creature whipped its tail, striking Buster in the flank, throwing him against the metal railing. I heard the thud, a sickening sound of bone on steel, and my vision went red. Pure red rage. I broke cover, standing up and firing my service weapon. Pop, 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 aiming not at the creature, but at the mercenary leader who was lining up a kill shot on my dog. Back off, I roared, my rounds sparking off his armor, distracting him just enough. He turned his weapon toward me, but that split second gave the creature an opening. It lunged past him, dropping from the catwalk onto the main conveyor belt, the one leading to the loading bay, leading outside, leading to the city. Buster was up, limping, blood matting his fur, but he scrambled onto the belt after it, sliding down the chute into the darkness. He's chasing it outside. I yelled to Henderson, if it gets to the tarmac, it's gone. I jumped onto the belt, sliding down the rubber ramp, picking up speed, tumbling into the loading bay cavern, a massive open space where the luggage carts were staged. The bay doors were open, showing the snowy night and the flashing lights of planes taxiing in the distance. The creature was sprinting toward the open bay door, moving with a terrifying, jerky speed. And the mercenaries were right behind me, sliding down the chute, landing and raising their weapons. Do not let it exit. The leader commanded, purge it. But they couldn't get a clean shot without hitting the fuel trucks outside. It was a stalemate, a disaster waiting to happen. And I looked at Buster. He was limping. He was hurt. But he looked at me, just a glance, and I knew what he was asking. He was asking for permission to finish it. I saw a hydraulic luggage press, a massive steel plate used to compress trash, sitting right next to the bay door. The creature had to pass right under it. Buster, hurdle, I shouted, a command to drive the target. Buster barked, summoning every ounce of strength he had left, and he sprinted, cutting an arc in front of the creature, snapping at its face, forcing it to flinch, forcing it to veer left, right into the path of the press. Now, I screamed, slamming my hand onto the manual override button on the wall. The hydraulic press slammed down with the force of a freight train. Clang, the ground shook. Dust fell from the rafters, and the screech was cut short. Silenced instantly, the mercenaries froze. Their weapons lowered. The leader walked over, looking at the crushed remains beneath the steel plate. Blue fluid leaking out into the snow. He looked at me, then at the dog. He tapped his comms, asset neutralized. Strictly biological failure. Scrubbed the team. He turned to me, staring through that black mask. You didn't see anything. Officer, this was a gas main leak. Do you understand? Go to hell, I panted, kneeling down to check Buster, who was licking the blood off his leg, wagging his tail like he'd just fetched a tennis ball. The mercenary leader paused, almost nodding, like he respected the hustle, and then they turned and vanished into the night, slipping away before the regular sirens got close, leaving us alone in the cold wind of the loading bay. The cleanup was a farce. Men in hazmat suits came in and scrubbed the place until it smelled like bleach and lies. They took the stroller, they took the footage. They tried to take my statement and twist it into something unrecognizable. Mass hysteria, fatigue-induced hallucination, electrical fire. They threatened my pension. They threatened to put Buster down as a rogue animal. But I had made copies. I had recorded the audio on my body cam. And I told them, "You touch my dog." And this tape goes to every news station in the world. So they backed off, gave me early retirement, gave Buster a medical discharge with honors, and swept the whole thing under the rug so deep you'd need a shovel to find the truth. Sarah, the mother, she found me a few weeks later. She came to my house, crying, holding little Leo. She told me that she wakes up screaming sometimes, thinking about that gift in the stroller, thinking about how close death was to her son. She brought Buster a steak the size of a hubcap, and she sat on my porch and watched him chew it. "He's an angel," she whispered, "a gritty, slobbering angel." And I couldn't argue with that. I spend my days fishing now. Buster sits on the boat, watching the water, his ears perked, always watching, always waiting, and sometimes, when I see a plane taking off from the airport across the lake, I wonder how many other precious gifts are moving through the terminals, hidden in plain sight, protected by suits and lies, waiting for a chance to break loose. And I wonder if there are enough dogs out there to stop them all. So, here's the question I leave you with, folks. And I want you to really think about it before you answer in the comments. We trust the system to keep us safe. We trust the checkpoints and the scanners. But when the threat comes from the people who built the system, who do you trust then? Would you have the guts to question the man in the suit? Or would you just keep walking? And honestly, do you think we have a right to know what they're smuggling through our cities? Or is ignorance really bliss? Let me know what you think. Because me and Buster, we're done with ignorance. Stay vigilant out there and trust your gut. It might just save your life.